Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and I have 5 farming tips that I think all players can hear that will help you kind of along the way and help. One of the biggest problems I think we run into with our roster is we sometimes make the wrong decision at the wrong time or aren't looking at the full picture. So I'm going to give you guys some advice to help you not only build a better roster, but build smarter. Because one of the tropes that I've 100% believe in all things is that you've got to work smarter, not harder. So let's dive right in here, guys. But first and foremost, we need to pay homage to our king, Wampa. You guys know the drill. We need Wampa to hit Relic 8. To do that, this channel needs to hit 5,000 subscribers. If we hit 5,000 subscribers, there's going to be a special live stream. I will Relic 8 Wampa, and we'll do some other fun things. It's going to really depend on what day I can fit that in, and I will make sure that it's at a time that most of my subscribers can join in. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But let's dive right in. Guys, remember, Wampa is king. He may not always be in your team, but he's always in your heart. All right, let's dive in here. Farming advice, let's go. So the first category is this kind of, I call it start, stop, start. What I mean by this is, let's say you're in the middle of your Galactic Legend farm, that you're farming up a, Jedi Master Luke, and you're at that point where you're improving grounds and you unlock Darth Malgus. If you have a Sith Empire team, stop. You can almost start, you stop farming Jedi Master Luke, start building that Darth Malgus for your Sith Empire team, and then start up Jedi Master Luke again, right? It's this kind of start, stop, start. These are all characters, and again, your Galactic Legend Lifter or Malgus in the case of making Sith Empire that much better, those 4 right there are 100% worth it if you have the teams to take advantage of them. That's a big caveat here. You've got to have the teams to take advantage, but I'm thinking of the players who you get Maul and you've farmed Lord Vader. Maul is 100% worth building, even if it's going to take the space of gear that you're going to put on something else because of how much better he makes that team. So again, that applies to Ben Solo with Rey. Commander Tano is one that if you're farming a Rey, you're farming Jedi Master Kenobi, Padme, she can slot in there and make teams that much better. So I really think that those 4 are top tier obvious. These next ones down here are a little bit more interesting. So Dark Trooper is one, when you get him to 7-star, if you've got a good Imperial Trooper team, he's worth some relics, or at least some more gear. That's because he's your damage dealer. And if you want to be able to punch up to some of those better and better teams, you need him dealing damage. So I 100% highly recommend worth kind of taking a pause to build that team up. I've also got Chewbacca and Commander Luke in here. With Commander Luke, it's one of those, okay, you got the requirements, you got Commander Luke, maybe you're in the middle of something else, he's worth putting some gear into. It doesn't always mean that you're going to go and Relic, 7 him right away. But maybe you get him to Gear 8, Gear 9, Gear 11, something. Get him to a reasonable level for your roster. If you're a 5 million GP player, you're probably looking at Relics. If you're a 2 million Galactic Power player, you're probably looking at a Gear 11. Just figure out the right place for your roster. Again, we've got Chewbacca, right? We got Chewbacca here as well to slot in that if you've built that Commander Luke team and you unlock Chewbacca, 100% worth it. Just get him to around the same gear level as the rest of that team. And then Vandor Chewbacca is one that when you get around to farming him and you've got Dash Rendar, you've kind of got a smuggler team ready to go. Vandor is somebody that I'd highly recommend building just to make that team a little, give them that boost they need. That you can't just go in and try something silly with it. You're going to need a little bit more to get around either the taunt or just some of those other factors that are going to keep you from being able to kill this team. So that's where I put those 2. All right, the last category here, Zetas only. So Wat Tambor and Ki-Adi-Mundi. Ki-Adi-Mundi can go up in this category right here if you have the full Galactic Republic Jedi team with the Qui-Gon Jinn Omicron at relic levels. If you don't, just give him his Zeta. It's going to make that team a little bit more difficult to beat. It's going to boost the damage, especially if you have Jedi Knight Anakin at relic levels. That Ki-Adi-Mundi Zeta just makes him absurd. And then Wat Tambor, get him to Gear 8, not even Gear 8, right? Just get him, slap the Zeta on him, and it's going to give you a bonus turn right away. You can give somebody tech. That's kind of those are 2 characters that I think you want to just get Zetas on them to help your teams. I've covered this before. I want to just touch on it again. I'm sure people might not have heard me say this, but don't overinvest. Whenever you're going into those events where there's that, okay, you need to be over, I think for Malik, it's like 1700, 17,500 power, right? And then for like the Ewok event and Best Armor Mando, there's no requirement for what gear level your characters need to be. So doing that with as little gear as possible is so important, especially if you're going for them early on in the game. The less gear you have tied up in characters that are not going to make it to relics in a long time it's so much healthier for a roster. So 100% guys, don't overinvest. Remember, you can always add gear. You cannot take gear off once it's there. So this is another one that I kind of talk about here. So, who's doing more, right? Or who's doing less? You need to think of your farming in terms of total energy rather than looking and saying, okay, this guy is farming 4 characters. This guy's farming 4 hard nodes. Down here, this person, they're farming 3 characters and 3 ships, but they're using more energy. Like, who's doing more? The answer is that they're both doing the same thing. Yes, you're farming ships here, right? Yes, here you're not farming the ships, but you're using less energy. You're building a team, so you need to look at it in terms of total energy. You can't say that, oh, I need to add on another character here to make sure that I'm keeping up with this person, or this person up here might need to set, oh, I need to go farm some ships with my energy because they are. Look at the total energy. You're doing roughly the same thing in each situation here. You're spending the same amount of energy, so then the rest you want to use on your gear. And that's one of the advantages that I've found myself doing is I try to look at my farming in terms of that energy rather than looking at it in terms of how many characters at a time. And that's really helped me in the cases where I'm farming a lot of low energy nodes. That's helped me ensure that I'm getting more characters at once and that I'm kind of, almost have this backlog to gear. And then on the flip side, if I'm farming higher energy nodes for characters, my gear levels are still remaining the same, that I'm able to kind of build up some gear. So your roster is kind of constantly evolving. It's something that I really, really think is important to just keep that balance between trying to use the same amount of energy for character shards at all times and the same amount for gear, and that can change as you do more refreshes. So again, now if you're asking me which one of these characters, like these are the farms you would be doing if you're farming the Houndstooth, the Xanadu Blood, and IG-2000, right? That would be 280 energy. Here, you're building your Imperial Trooper team for 260 energy. So, pick your poison kind of thing. Again, just kind of trying to prove the point to you that you can get away with, I don't know, I'm kind of rambling on this one a little bit, but the point you're proving here, you're both doing the same thing. You're both spending the same amount of energy. It's just where it's going that's different. You could do this with anything. I just picked examples that I think early players are looking at, but look at your Galactic Legend Rey. Are you going to need to be farming 100 energy nodes or whatever? Make sure you're balancing that with your regular farms as well at all times. All right, total investment. So this is a situation that I'm looking at where you compare General Skywalker to Darth Malak, and everybody's going to tell you that General Skywalker is a better team, and they would be correct. However, if you're asking me which one to farm first, the answer is always going to be Darth Malak. You can do Darth Malak with a lot less gear investment. The characters you use with Darth Malak in a team, two of his best optimal ones are characters that are required for him, Bastila Shan Fallen and Darth Revan. And then you can throw HK-47 in there just as a placeholder until you get better characters. So you've already kind of built the team for Darth Malak. With General Skywalker, he needs the entire 501st, right, 4 other clone troopers, to be really getting the best use out of him. So in this situation, yes, total investment, General Skywalker's better, but if you're looking for that quick boost to your roster, Darth Malak is that answer. So you got to look at the full picture of what am I actually going for with this farm. The other example I have here, Savage Press with Darth Traya. Most people would say, the Savage Press Omicron is amazing. With Darth Traya is probably just as good. I think they both do things really well. Savage Press, there's some things that can counter him that maybe Traya stops, vice versa. But with Traya, you need a team. there's other characters involved in that Treya Omicron. It's not just slapping it on Treya and now you've got a solo artist like Savage Press. So there's kind of, balance there. But then understanding that Savage outside of GAC and outside of his Omicron is not nearly as useful as Treya and her team are. So you've got to look at that total investment in the character. Finally, we're kind of covering it down here again, more total investment. Jedi Master Luke, Jedi Master Kenobi. You need to build additional characters to really get their team when you get their requirements. Their requirements with Jedi Master Luke, you'll at least have Hermit Yoda, Jedi Knight Luke, and you'll even have Old Ben, who you could make an argument can fit in that team, but you'd really want, Jedi Knight Revan and a Grandmaster Yoda, right? So there's some additional gearing to get them up to the relic levels you'll have your other Jedi at. With Jedi Master Kenobi, you need Commander Tano. General Kenobi's at least one of his recs, but you need Ahsoka, Padme, Jedi Knight Anakin. There's a couple of different characters you need to build up as well to be able to use his squad. Compared to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, who you're just going to use First Order with, who you build up for him anyway, or Jabba the Hutt, who needs Hutt Cartel, who, even if you don't build the Optimal and have Embo, you can at least slot Boba Fett in there, and he's a requirement for that farm. So, from a total investment perspective, you could say, oh, like Jabba's, so hard to get, but you built the team. That you have the team when you're done with him. That's not the case for Kenobi and Jedi Master Luke. So that's kind of the argument I always make, is you've got to look at that total investment and understand what you're really getting into. So that's my farming advice. It's just a few things that I think really can help. I might have said 5 at the beginning. It's really 4. I don't know. Maybe it's 5. You guys tell me what you think. I guess you could almost combine character and team down here, right? Maybe that's the 5th one. But I kind of like this setup. This is the way to do it. I'm not going to go back and change the beginning of this, guys. I'm too... got enough going on here. I think this is some good advice to hopefully help you build a better roster and just to understand. And again, I can't put every example in here. I want to make that very clear. I can't put every example in here. So I'm picking out characters that I think are common, picking out things that I think people do. So again, that's the video. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. As always, smash that subscribe button, leave likes, leave comments, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.